man, he's the greatest thing that ever happened to human beings, especially us as a people. Because we look at him as the only American prophet. We learned that he was divinely prepared, and he didn't come here with an army of people. He came here by himself in the flesh, but his purpose was to uplift us, to get us to see who we really were, because during the times of physical slavery, chattel slavery, many of our people had lost complete knowledge of who we were. We had allowed some of the European nations to make us accept those marks of Negro, Black, and colored. And we had to be uplifted from them. We had to have someone with a divine intervention, as the prophet Noble Drew Ali represented, a divine intervention to take us away from those lower self-thoughts. Not only did he give us a knowledge of who we were, but he increased our economic outlook on life, how we should look for more economic security. He increased our knowledge and our way of obtaining more social skills and demonstrating more social duties to one another. He increased our awareness and our activity in the moral codes of conduct. We were immoral in many of us, and even today, morality meant nothing to us. But through his teachings and his divine instructions that he gave to us, we began to realize that it's important to demonstrate some kind of moral ethics, which we could give to our children to edify them to become greater men and women in our society. And finally, the prophet Noble Drew Ali, to me and to most of us who have read his teachings, encouraged us that we are spiritual beings. And it's important to look into our spirituality in a profound sense. Spirituality is most important amongst us as a people, because before we knew who we were, we thought that we had to go through a human being to get to the spiritual maker, who we call Allah, to get some results. We thought that there was a man who was a broker of heaven, which is a state of mind, that we had to go to him and say, well, listen, could you pray for me? Because I want to go to heaven. And he was in charge to say, well, I don't know, let me think about it. Maybe you won't go to heaven, maybe you will go to heaven, but you will go to hell and you will go to heaven. It became a chant. Anyway, the prophet Noble Drew Ali says to us that if you want to be in heaven, which is a state of mind again, you don't need a middleman. You need your relationship with the one who made me and the one who made you. So that's a direct connection to our spiritual awareness, that we have a connection. We can meet the maker, our maker, in our hearts. We can meet him and we can have a conversation with him in our hearts, in our mind, and through prayer. And I'm a strong believer in prayer. It is the key to everything. And it brings things in existence for us. When he passed, there was people from Baghdad looking for him, princes. And we have copies of those letters in Chicago where they were trying to find him, what happened to him. They wanted to know. He had a profound effect, not only on us, but the entire world, as all prophets do. When they come to a people, but they come to the whole world too, because they have so much light. And that light affects everyone. Now, many people say, well, did he come to the European? Of course. In the sense that he's telling the European that all free national beings must have their free national name, which simply means that if you are calling yourself white, you're just as wrong as us calling ourselves black, because you are not white. You are either Italian American, a Polish American, a Greek American, a German American, but you can't be German American and white at the same time. At the same time, you're not. So when those of us who have traveled abroad know that they don't use that term when you leave the United States of America. They tell you abruptly, well, I'm German, I'm Italian, They did. And when they're around each other, they talk about each other. That Italian, that Greek, that German. They never say that white, that white. But these are just common sense notations that many of our people don't look at, because many of us have been blinded by the light to such great extent that when the truth is right before us, we will not apprehend it. And the prophet tells us, he says, naturally does man want the truth. It's a natural desire for him to want the truth. But yet, when it is right before him, he will not apprehend it. What's wrong with you? Is something wrong with you? Sometimes that's what I ask myself. I use that expression quite a bit. Is something wrong with you? What's wrong with you? I guess for many of us who eyes have been opened up to the light, the prophet's light, we say, well, we got our eyes opened up to the light. What happened to you? What's wrong? It's right there. It's right there. It's right there. Come up to the cool breeze. When the prophet Noble Drew Ali came here in the flesh in 1886, his sole purpose was to give us all the things that we had lost as a people, going back to 1480, from 1480 to 1492, those 12 years of the Spanish Inquisition, where we were kicked out of Spain, that we held for over 700 years. That's when the stuff really started. The real heat started for our people when our Moroccan Empire began to break up and fragment. And it really started because of infighting, because we were billionaires, shipping magnates, who built and owned ships all over the world, sailed the world when the Europeans thought the world was flat, and that there were monsters on the other side of the world, and they would devour you up and chew you up. And that was the end of you. You were finished, finito. So we sell what is called the Moorish astrolabe. We sell the seeds. We trade it all over the world. So from 1492 to the early 1500s, we had navigated our ships to the Americas with Christopher Columbus and other explorers, Ponce de Leon, and show them how to get to our parts of our land. So the heat was on. It started then. They said, well, this land is beautiful, it's bountiful. And let's say the early 1700s, according to Leroy Bennett's book, Before the Mayflower, many of the early plantation owners were Moors, because we were already here. And many of us came here. They said, well, 1610 was the year that slavery started. No, it was indentured service. So many of us were indentured service. In fact, we held the seas, the 7 seas, as what they call pirates, but we wouldn't let you get past. Because we already owned the seas, because we made the ships, we sailed the seas, we controlled the seas. So they took some of us and sold us into indentured slavery. We took some of them and sold them to indentured slavery in China. So it was back and forth, according to the history books. That wasn't enough. So in 1774, the Europeans who had been trading molasses and other commodities from the natural resources of our country, of our land, and sugar and tobacco. They said, well, we won't be involved in trading human beings because indentured servant was trying to turn into something else other than, you work your way and then you're free and so forth. So we won't be involved with slavery. So many say that became the Articles of Association of 1774. And all of these teachings and many, many more comes from interacting and reading the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, who I personally call an angel of the bright light, because his light is so bright that if you can stand the light, it will benefit you greatly.